The Chicago Bears find themselves in one of the most intriguing moments of their season, and the energy around this team keeps shifting with every performance. What makes everything even more captivating is how the conversation around the head coach has grown louder, especially as the Bears continue to stack wins in a division that has quietly become one of the toughest groups in all of football. When you look at the landscape of the league right now, there's a lot of chatter about who deserves recognition for the work done this year, and it is impossible not to bring the Bears into that conversation. The path this team has taken, considering the injuries and the constant pressure that comes with a rebooting franchise, has created a compelling case for anyone paying attention. When discussions arise about impressive coaching jobs, the Bears naturally find themselves included, and it is not by accident. For a team that not long ago appeared overwhelmed in several areas, turning things around so sharply speaks volumes about the leadership in the building. Winning a division as competitive as the NFC North would be more than a simple achievement. It would represent a genuine statement to the rest of the league. No one is saying awards should be handed out automatically, but ignoring the strides this team has made would be impossible. If the Bears finish with something like a dozen victories and take the division title, it'd be hard to argue that it is not one of the strongest coaching performances of the season. For now, what matters most is that the group remains fully bought into its direction. The momentum extends far beyond the coaching discussion. Chicago's future continues to be one of the most debated topics, especially when it comes to how aggressive the front office might be during the upcoming offseason. Fans speculate about everything, including the possibility of pursuing a top-tier pass rusher. Names like elite edge defenders always surface when people dream about boosting a roster that already features several promising building blocks. But acquiring a premier player of that caliber is never simple, and it certainly does not come cheap. Any move for someone considered among the best in the league would require much more than a single first-round selection, and that kind of decision must be tied to a strong belief that the team is only one or two pieces away from becoming a consistent postseason threat. What fuels these discussions is how the Bears have been playing lately. If the team closes the season with something like 11 wins, steals a postseason victory, and shows real bite against top competition, it is only natural for the organization to explore opportunities to elevate the roster even further. That is the type of scenario where adding a dominant pass rusher becomes more than a fantasy. It becomes a possible step in strengthening an already ascending core. Much of what comes next depends on health, development, and how a few young players finish the year, particularly in key positions along the offensive line and defensive front. The running back situation is another storyline worth watching. The current rotation has delivered encouraging production, and there has been plenty of talk about how things could look next season. Keeping certain players under contract for the final year of a deal makes sense if they continue to contribute at a solid level. No one is rushing to talk about long-term commitments, but rolling the group forward with a dependable lead back and an emerging young talent in the rotation would not be surprising. It also would not be shocking to see the Bears dip into the middle rounds of the draft to add another piece to the backfield, someone who can grow within the offense and expand the options for the coaching staff. This is one of those spots that always seems to evolve, and the Bears appear comfortable letting the remainder of the season shape their decisions. Defensively, the anticipation around certain returning players adds even more intrigue. Getting key contributors back on the field brings an instant boost, especially when those players were performing at a high level before getting hurt. The expectation is that, once fully healthy, they can regain their previous form. The challenge is stepping back in during a crucial stretch of the season, particularly when the defensive unit has already had to adjust to the absence of other important pieces. But if even one returning starter can pick up where he left off, the impact on the defense could be significant. This unit has shown flashes of dominance, and consistency from familiar faces only increases the likelihood of sustained success. Another conversation stirring among fans revolves around the future of the secondary. Contract decisions always carry weight, especially when a group includes young talent alongside experienced players who bring edge, energy, and emotional spark. Throughout the season, Chicago's defensive backs have delivered big moments, some of them game-changing. There is value in returning emotional leaders who set the tone, but timing matters, and the front office often prefers to evaluate the full season before making long-term commitments. It is possible that certain veterans may receive short-term deals while others are allowed to test the market, all depending on how these final weeks unfold. What cannot be denied is the fire some of these players bring, especially in heated moments that shift momentum. As for the idea of adding late-season reinforcements, the options across the league are usually thin at this point. Most teams are set with the rosters they have, only making moves when injuries force their hand or when a surprising release shakes loose a player who still has something to offer. Occasionally, someone with a specific skill set becomes available, but those situations are uncommon. What matters most for the Bears is that they continue to rely on the pieces already in place, because this roster has shown steady improvement in crucial areas. The foundation is there, and any additional moves would simply be minor depth adjustments rather than major changes. All eyes now turn to the upcoming matchup, one that has sparked endless conversations among fans. Predicting outcomes is always tricky, but the excitement surrounding this particular game is undeniable. The opponent features several weaknesses in their offensive line, especially on the right side, which creates a real opportunity for Chicago's defensive front to disrupt plays early and often. With certain starters missing and others struggling due to injuries, the chance for interior pressure becomes even more enticing. Players like Dexter and Jarrett could have their fingerprints all over this contest if they win their battles inside. Combine that with the edge presence already on the roster, and Chicago has a legitimate path to creating chaos. Meanwhile, the bigger picture question continues to hang in the air. How close are the Bears to becoming a true contender? Some fans argue that the gap is not as large as outsiders assume. When a team reaches 8 victories early in the season and begins knocking off opponents with strong records, the conversation naturally shifts. Could Chicago make that leap this year? It is not impossible. Take down one of the conference's best teams, and suddenly the entire narrative changes. That is the beauty of football. One breakthrough win can completely reframe expectations. As the Bears continue pushing forward, the atmosphere around this team starts to feel different, almost like the city itself is bracing for something bigger than a regular season run. There's a sense that every snap, every adjustment, and every clutch performance is shaping a future that many fans have waited years to see. What stands out most is not just the wins, but the way this roster competes in critical moments, showing a maturity that was not always present in recent seasons. When the pressure tightens, this group no longer looks overwhelmed. Instead, they grind through possessions, fight for extra yards, and play with a confidence that signals real growth. That is the kind of evolution that signals a turning point, especially when the younger players begin matching the intensity of the veterans. The conversation around postseason possibilities becomes louder each week as the Bears maintain their place among the conference's top teams. When a franchise reaches this point, the narrative shifts from survival to proving legitimacy. It becomes less about whether they can stay competitive and more about whether they belong in the same tier as the strongest contenders. The upcoming schedule plays a huge role in answering that question, especially when the Bears face opponents whose reputations have been built on consistency and physicality. Securing wins in those matchups would not only boost their standing, but also validate the belief that Chicago is ready to challenge for something more significant. Fans continue debating which version of this team is the real one. The gritty, relentless squad that punches above its weight, or the one that occasionally struggles with focus and execution. That debate exists only because the Bears have shown glimpses of both. When the team plays locked in, the offense balances patience with explosiveness, the defense swarms with discipline, and the sideline energy builds like a wave that never crashes. When they drift from that rhythm, mistakes begin to compound and the margin for error disappears. The challenge now is maintaining the sharper version of themselves deep into the winter, when fatigue sets in and the stakes rise. Matchups like the one approaching also generate conversations about individual players and whether they can elevate their performance in spotlight moments. The Bears have several emerging talents who seem built for these pressure points. Some were drafted with the expectation that they would eventually anchor the franchise's future, while others were brought in to bridge the gap between the past and the next era. Their progression is one of the clearest indicators of how far this team has come. Watching young defenders anticipate routes with sharper instincts or offensive players adjust mid-play to extend drives reveals a team learning how to win consistently. That is the kind of development that cannot be faked. It manifests naturally when the culture begins shifting. Across the league, teams that rise quickly often rely on a blend of patience and aggression, choosing to strike when the opportunity is too good to ignore. Chicago seems to be heading into that phase. The front office has put together a foundation with the right mixture of youth, leadership, and physical identity. What comes next depends on how the season finishes and what needs become clearer in the final stretch. Whether the Bears decide to invest heavily in a premier edge rusher, unlock more depth in the secondary, or strengthen the offensive line further, those decisions hinge on how far this current roster can push its limits. Every game now serves as both a test and a scouting report for what the organization might pursue next. On the offensive side, consistency remains the key. The unit has shown flashes of rhythm when the line holds up and the playmakers operate in sync. Establishing drives with deliberate pacing, then exploding with sudden vertical plays, has been one of the most effective formulas for this group. What makes this team dangerous is its ability to adapt. When the ground game clicks, it opens everything else. When the passing attack finds a groove, defenses are forced to respect multiple threats. The offensive coordinator has leaned into what works instead of forcing concepts that do not fit, and that shift has resulted in cleaner possessions and fewer situations where the offense feels stuck chasing momentum. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Rumors are swirling around the league as whispers suggest the Bears are making a move that could reshape their defensive identity for years to come. Sources close to the organization hint that the team has locked in a deal with Quinnen Williams, the young defensive powerhouse known for his disruptive presence in the trenches. If true, this would signal an aggressive pivot toward total domination at the line of scrimmage, a statement that the Bears are ready to impose their will on any offense daring enough to cross the 50-yard line. Williams, a name synonymous with explosive plays and relentless pressure, has long been on the radar of teams eager to revamp their defensive schemes. Analysts have speculated for months about his next destination, and the buzz around Chicago has grown almost feverish. Insiders suggest that the Bears envision Williams as the cornerstone of a reinvigorated D-line, a player around whom they can construct a defensive juggernaut. His ability to collapse pockets, disrupt timing, and command double teams could be exactly what the Bears need to reclaim a feared defensive identity. Fans are already imagining the possibilities. A front line that strikes fear into quarterbacks, linebackers free to roam, and a pass rush that could become the defining feature of Chicago's defense. Social media chatter paints a picture of a defensive unit that finally lives up to its potential, a force capable of swinging momentum in an instant. Coaches reportedly are excited about the matchup nightmares Williams would create, and there is speculation that his presence could elevate the entire defensive roster, forcing opponents to rethink their game plans entirely. Of course, nothing is official yet, but the murmurings are growing louder, and insiders hint that an announcement could be imminent. If the deal goes through, it might not just be a signing. It could be a bold declaration that the Bears are no longer content with being a middle-of-the-pack squad. The football world is watching closely, waiting to see if Chicago's D-line will indeed gain a new leader in Quinnen Williams, and whether the city is about to witness a defensive renaissance that could echo for seasons to come. For now, speculation reigns, and the potential for chaos on the gridiron is tantalizingly real. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.